Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode 48 to be exact, of Aspire to Inspire, where we interview industry professionals. Today's guest is nonetheless working actress Quie Tann. She is a force within the television and film industry. She is currently working on a project for Blumhouse production, a horror film set to premiere in August of 2022 on Peacock. And her film credits and television credits also include appearing in Netflix, Dear White People, How to Get Away with Murder, Tyler Perry's Brush, streaming on BET, and so much more. I am so excited to be interviewing her. You guys go check it out. Look at us. We look like sisters. How are you doing today? It's so nice to meet you.
I'm doing so well. It's so great to meet you.
Yeah, I'm just, again, as I stated before, I'm so grateful to have you part of this platform where we interview actors, fellow creatives who are in the entertainment industry, doing their thing and being an inspiration for us as creatives as well. So without further ado, I would just love to open up the floor and allow you to just tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and what you're all about.
Oh, wow. What do I do? What am I all about? Well, I'm an actress. I have just always wanted to act in film and television specifically for a really long time, ever since I saw Raven-Symoné in That's So Raven when I was a little kid. And they just seemed really happy and like they were having a fun time and like they didn't have money troubles. And I actually used to be really shy, like really, really shy. But because of, I think because of just not having a really great childhood, I had to really find my voice. And I think through finding my voice, acting helped me do that. Yeah.
I love that. And I think everyone's career is so unique and tailored to them that it finds you in a sense. And once you find it, you take hold of it and become such a creative outlet, even with all the craziness in the world that's around us. I believe, as a sense, acting has been my outlet to just be creative and have that inward childlike demeanor that I think like all of us has, and it lets me like hold on to it so tightly. But I really appreciate you sharing a little bit about yourself. And just moving on to our next question, we all have reasons a particular moment, so to say, of what drew us to acting and how that kind of got rolling into where we are today. So I ask you, was there a particular, so to say, moment in your career where you told yourself like, yes, I'm going to pursue acting as a career path wholeheartedly, and you didn't turn back then?
Yeah, so I'm very much so like, I've always kind of been an all in or all out kind of person, like with everything.
Right.
And that hasn't always, served me. Sometimes it's gotten me in trouble. And when I was born in Los Angeles. And then my family or my mother's side of the family ended up moving to Vegas when I was about in the 4th grade. And I was kind of back and forth for a little bit, but I was in Vegas when I was in the 9th and 10th grade. I was 14 and 15. And I was modeling there in Vegas.
Right.
I had been acting, doing some community theater. Didn't really I did when I was in the 7th grade, I did a community play and did some kind of theater stuff in school, but they kind of focused on singing, which is so funny because we'll talk about in the present day, I've been hired to sing.
Nice.
And so we'll talk about that. But they were more focused on musicals. And then I always was getting in trouble in school. So I wasn't able to be like a theater kid. Even though I did do theater, but just not in my educational school system. So when I turned 16, around that time, I already had my permit. I got my license. I, had my little job, and I took my mom's car, and I was like, I'm not going to be here in Vegas. School was just such a mess. They were so terrible to me. And I was like, there's just no reason for me to be here. I need to be in LA. I need to be doing what I love. I was watching a lot of Red Carpets with Juliana Rancic, and I was just absorbing, of course, so much more television. I wasn't really absorbing film, but I was absorbing a lot of television, and I just so clearly knew that like I just needed to be in LA acting. And so I drove out to LA. My mom, kissed me goodbye, and she knew that I was doing this. There was no stopping me.
Yeah.
And I was here and it's so crazy when I think back on it, but I was here. So I got here in 2013. Not me giving away my age. I never do this. So I got here. I won't say the year I got here.
It's all good. Get it out.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Now you realize it.
Oh, wait. So it was like 4 or 3 years before I but those 4 to 3 years, I want to say 4, but it was only until I got like one thing, and then I got on Top Model in about 4 years. But those 4 years were freaking brutal. Yeah. I was like, and I went full tilt. Like I went full tilt. I started by going around, because I had some modeling photos. I went around to like all the modeling agencies here. None of them wanted me. Not exotic enough, I guess, and so I did that. And then I started doing acting classes here. I went to some interesting acting classes.
Tell me about it. Yeah.
Yes, but I will say those acting classes really shaped me. Those acting classes that were like so freaking weird and whatever, right. They shaped me. They made me into the artist that I am. And fast forward, like none of that stuff was a waste. Like all of that stuff led me to where I am. And executive producers, I just filmed a movie that you mentioned with Blumhouse called They/Them. It's a horror film that I play opposite Kevin Bacon. And the producers were all come in, the director, they were all just like, oh my goodness, you're so good. And it's like all these freaking years of acting classes and like all of this, it actually amounted to something. Sure. And I'm really happy about that. But yeah, I moved out here when I was 16, and 4 to 3 years later, I got on America's Next Top Model.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah. I mean, what you said really, like, major thing I took away with your story is that you went for something, you put your heart and soul into it for 4 years. I'm pretty sure, as you stated, that was like a really hard time. I think we as creatives, we want stuff so badly to happen right then and there, but the training is so essential, especially for acting as the craft and learning how to do certain things, how to pick up certain techniques. And which is so interesting, words are so funny. What's so interesting is that, there's so much training behind the job of an actor, which a lot of people may not understand that. So just from your experience, that 4 year of training and just working hard, what's a bit of wisdom or advice for, let's say, individuals who are interested in starting in acting, but have that mindset of, oh, I'm just going to get on TV and it's just going to be that easy, without understanding the training that comes behind it? Could you give a little bit of insight for viewers who will be watching this and interested in doing so?
Oh, I think the most important thing, and this is something we would say in Dear White People and stuff I've picked up, is that we'd always say, like, this industry and life just in general, it's not a meritocracy, which means this isn't a society based on merit. It doesn't mean that if you train the hardest and you put in all the work and you're talented and you're so talented and skilled that you're the person that's going to reap all the rewards. It does just happen very haphazardly. It's just life. And those 4 years of, and let's not make America's Next Top Model out to be this grand success. I was on one episode of it, and then I was unceremoniously dismissed. Like, it was bad. Like, they were like, it was awful. And I think if there's anything I would leave anyone with today, that was a really awful experience, but I think what I've really did was I turned those failures. I think that's what I do with all my auditions, and I have to keep reminding myself to this day, is that all of those rejections, they're just redirections, right? And so God's rejection is God's greatest protection.
For sure.
And during those 4 years, I was just honestly just living, being a kid. I was, homeless a lot, and I was figuring shit out, and I was learning how to support myself. Like, it was just, I was honestly doing a lot of growing up. I was learning a lot about myself. I was I was also just like experiencing all these things as a teenager. And I felt very aimless, but the thing that kept me so constant was my dream. I knew I had this dream, and I just wouldn't listen to people who said that it wasn't possible. I refused to listen to it. There were a lot of people who I think they didn't necessarily, only a couple people, would have said something like that to me, but but just people who would come with any kind of like cynicism, or people who would say, I remember watching Bill Maher, and he was saying like, well, statistically, all these people can't make it, or all these people can't be rich or be successful. And I rebuked it. Like, I literally would just rebuke it. And I'm like, that's not for me. Like, I would just have to tell myself, like, when they're talking about, and I remember going to something with SAG, it was Gina Davis, who's in, Thelma and Louise, which I need to see the movie. I haven't seen it, but she's in Thelma and Louise, and she was holding. I was invited to it because I was a part of this homeless shelter, and this youth homeless shelter, and we went there. It was at the Warner Brothers lot. I was so excited to be there because I'm like, there are Warner Brothers, and she opened her speech by saying, there are all these actors who are a part of the union. At that time, I would have loved to have been a part of the union. And she was like, a majority of those actors don't work, are not employed. And I'm just like, I have to rebuke it. Like, I have to rebuke this out of my mind. And, I just have to continue to believe in myself. And I thank God that I did that, because as I continued to believe in myself, I just started to see just actually how possible it is for all of us to do what it is that we love. It's so tangible. It's so possible. It is not something that is so far off and esoteric, and you have to, do all these type of, things. It's like, you can, I see it. I see like that I'm in it. Right. And I see people, I always am speaking to actors, and I'm like, how did you get here? I'm so curious. Like, what's your journey here? And at the end of the day, all of them, it's just tenacity. Everyone else has gotten married, moved away, and died. And it's us who's just here, who stayed here, and is just committed to it for life, for better or worse.
Right. Wow.
I'm here acting for the rest of my life.
And that's a beautiful thing, to not only be so committed to it, but to say, like, for better or for worse with this career, like, I'm willing to go or do the extra mile, because let alone, this is what I desire for my life. And you put so many years into it. Of course, the work is going to follow up with a blessing at the end. Like, all these years of putting your time and your energy into it, of course it's going to reproduce at the end, because you put so much hard work into it. So you were honestly, it was just perfect. Everything you just said was completely perfect. And it's just, a lot of people don't see that. And it's not their fault that they don't see it. It's just, we as actors, we love the craft. We understand the work that goes behind it. So there's a much deeper rooted love for it. So it's beyond fame, beyond, the wealth or whatever. It's clear that you love what you do, and you're still doing it, because look at where you are today, on films and upcoming short films and things along those lines. Like, that's just so admiring for, from an actor standpoint, like myself. It's just so admiring to see that.
Thank you. It's such a, like, to hear you say all that, to say that, and to talk about the things that I've done. And I see the scroll down here. It's like, do you write people on How to Get Away with Murder and Tyler Perry? And it's when people say this, like, it's really humbling. I'm like, what do they mean by that? When like something, when like something they've done is like an accomplishment, they're like, oh, it's really humbling. And
Right.
and it is, and I get it, because I'm still in it, right? Like, I'm still auditioning.
Right, for sure.
Ooh, let's go back to that meritocracy for a minute.
For sure.
There are going to be people in your journey, because there's been people in mine. It just seems like it just comes so easily to them. It just, for whatever reason, it just seems like it comes so easily to them. That's their journey.
Exactly. Right.
That's their journey. That's what God wants from them, for them. And we have to just, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And I do. 'Cause, man, that's the things we go through, the timing of the journey, and the terrible thing that sometimes we do is we compare and judge our journeys with someone else. And then we kind of doubt ourselves about, why is my timing longer than this individual? And through doing that, you're delaying your process of receiving your blessing in return. So these major points that you're talking about, and I'm so glad that you're open, and I just love how open you are, and we're just having a full-blown discussion. I love that. Because with this interview aspect, people are just like, well, let me just present myself the best way possible. No, I love to talk about these things, because this is what the journey is about. And this is what actors go through on a daily, no matter what status you're in, So for you to talk about that, it's everything. It's why I do this platform. It's why I talk to actors like yourself. It's such a refresher to talk to fellow creatives. It's such a refresher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think fellowshipping with, that's the reason why I'm back in acting class, because it's great to, it's great to, one, always be active and to be acting.
Yeah.
Always great to be learning and growing. But it's also just great to talk to other actors. And I was actually doing a master class with Shonda Rhimes.
Wow.
Not in person.
Well, I mean, virtually. That makes sense.
No. I mean, no. It was pre-recorded. It's the thing.
Got you.
Class thing. She has a master class. Yeah, I wasn't on a Zoom with her, even though I was on How to Get Away with Murder, which is crazy. That's crazy. You can believe that I did something with Shonda, because
yes, I know. That's why I was nodding and agreeing, and then it's all good.
Like, I'm still the actress with dreams who wants to be on How to Get Away with Murder, but I'm the actress that's on it, which is like, wow. It's so, I just feel so, like, just so humbled. I ask God every day, the universe, God, Buddha, whatever you want to call it, love. I continue to just ask and hold this dream in my heart. And it's just the power of that, the power of seeing that come to fruition is just so beautiful. How to Get Away with Murder is a show I was watching when I was in acting class. We talked about it ad nauseum, it was, wow. I mean,
for sure. Right.
But what I was going to say to you about fellowshipping with other actors and networking, people talk about networking, which I'm like, oh my God.
Yes.
So what Shonda said, she said, what you should do is you should speak to your peers, your fellow creative peers, because those are the people you're going to rise up with.
Sure.
Those are the people who you're gonna lift each other up instead of trying to like, you know, network with Shonda Rhimes, who's, you know, already at the height of her career. Like, why not build a really strong foundation? And I think to Justin Simeon, his best friend he met in the industry, in the trenches. They were working at Paramount. They were they had some sort of writing class together.
Yeah.
And they became, Lena Waithe and Justin Simeon became best friends. I believe Lena helped, or through one way or another, they led each other to Yvette Bowser, who ended up producing Dear White People, the film. And then I know Lena's very involved in Dear White People, the show. She may have been involved in the film as well. And obviously, and that's Justin. And Justin is doing all these amazing shows. And, you know, he's really at the top of his game in Hollywood as a showrunner, a creator, a filmmaker. And then Lena Waithe, I mean, come on, you know?
Right.
And so I think that like RuPaul talks about that, finding your tribe, you know. Yeah, RuPaul said that the people who runs World of Wonder, he had met way back in the day in New York. You know, these are ties and bonds that have just held strong by just you know, finding your people, you know, finding your people, because we're the ones who are going to rise up together. And I'm happy to have seen that. I'm happy to have seen other actors. I remember just other actors I was in acting class with is actually on Ruthless. I was so blown away to see my classmate, this beautiful Black woman, who I remember us doing an acting exercise with, where we told each other a personal secret about ourselves to each other. And then we went in front of the class and we told each other's secret.
Interesting.
I told her story and she told mine. And we went to, we were quarantined on Tyler Perry's in 2020, when one of the first to start filming. And I saw her there and I was just like, look at that. Look at that. It was just so beautiful. And yeah,
that's a full circle moment. It's so beautiful because you never know the people you come across can be right next to you, like on set of a show. And you speaking so boldly about the tribe, and networking nonetheless, it's just, you never know. And it's so important to, let alone be kind to people, because word gets around, and to build from where you are. Like, it doesn't matter what area of your life you're in, within the entertainment industry or just in general, just build from where you are. And like you said, the beautiful story, you said you were able to work alongside your classmate on a Tyler Perry show, Ruthless. So that's just a testimony to what we're discussing, the networking and just working well with others and training. And I love those type of stories. Thank you so much for sharing that. I love that. I love that so much. And just transitioning for a second from networking now onto, you as a working actress, kind of your process of taking on characters, So my question leading into that is, what is your process for receiving a role and breaking down a character? I ask this question to all my guests because everyone is different, but I'm just genuinely curious how you go about auditioning and preparing for a role and receiving it and just executing it.
Yeah. I actually love this question. People don't ask me about process, and I'm like, you guys, I'm an artist. Like,
right, exactly.
I want to talk, and of course, I'm speaking to an actor, so of course you would ask me. Which, thank you. The first thing that popped into my head is this actor I worked with. His name is Deron Horton on Dear White People. He played Lionel. I would never say this to him in person, but he's so phenomenal. He's exact. I mean, to see somebody act so well, and he hasn't had that breakthrough yet, that big break, he's still so young, and we all are, but he's so talented. And I really want to, in every project I've worked on, I really have taken so much away, particularly Dear White People, because that was my first union show. And I got to make a lot of mistakes, and I got to try a lot of stuff that worked. And he, Duran, he really was character acting. He was transformative. He changed his voice. He changed the way he held his body, his arms, everything. He was acting from the top of his head to the bottom of his feet. And it was just so inspiring. And, that is my goal, right? My goal is to be able to transcend, be able to be beyond, me and just the person that I am, and really step into someone else's shoes. And the roles that I've played, they haven't just been like, they've been all created imaginary characters. However, they seem to represent a larger community of people. They seem to have something a real political point of view. And so I think it's one really important that I'm really able to put them first. And this last character this last person I was playing, Alexandra, in the Blumhouse film, I had to really, I guess, have an ego death of sorts. And I had this desire to be the best actress ever, right? Desire to be the best actress that I can be, that Duran Horton level of acting. And my acting teacher, and I always do coaching. I'm a coach fanatic. If you have the money to spend, if you already have the part, or maybe if you have a callback or something like that, not necessarily for an initial audition, because that can get really expensive, but if you have it for these things where you're really being considered or you're playing a role, why not coach? Like, I'd love having somebody there seeing me in my process. We can get into the minutia of it. And I openly speak about, kind of what's happening, what's going on through my mind, running through my mind. And I'm like, yeah, I just want to be, you know what I mean? I want to make this choice because I think this will be so exciting. And it was me and my teacher both kind of said, well, she was like, well, Quei wants to be this amazing actress. Like, Alexandra doesn't even want to be there. Like, Alexandra wants to get out of the situation. Alexandra could care less. Like, Alexandra's actually living in these circumstances. And that was something I really had to because I'm an artist that paints with really bold colors, and I make really strong choices and I commit to them. And this was a really great lesson for me, because one of my acting teachers would say this a lot. He would say, oh, these actors, they want to be so clever. They want to do such clever things.
Yeah.
Where's the honesty? You know what I mean? Where is the this actual person's life, And so what I did with this last film, which I would love for you to watch it. It'll come out August 5th. I would love for you to see it. Let me know what you think. But they released a little bit of it to a couple of people that are associated with NBC and certain stuff. And people have been saying some really nice things about my performance. And so I'm excited to see it. But what I did specifically for that preparation, to answer the question, was I reached out to an Alexander Technique teacher at the Alexander Technique, and also the Fitzmaurice Technique and Lesac. Maybe not so much Lesac, but all three of these are body techniques. Some are voice and body, and they train them in Juilliard and Yale. And I've always been so interested in going to Juilliard and Yale. And I spoke to Viola Davis a little bit about this. And I was like, ooh, do you think I should go? And she was like, maybe 5 years ago, before with me. And she was like, no, dude. She was like, just keep acting, like, you're here, and which I really appreciate her candor and her advice. But I always, of course, I love their training. I love the way that the things that she was trained and she was taught. And so I wanted to incorporate that into the way I'm training myself as an actor. So
Right.
I went online. Well, for the first thing I did, I went through the curriculum because I was so interested. I went through the curriculum at Yale and Juilliard. I looked at the things that they were teaching them, and they're not just teaching them scene study, they're teaching them voice and body. Like they're trained physically. And so I reached out to teachers to do that technique, and I hired, sometimes they do open classes, but because of COVID, they're not so much, but I just went and did so much private coaching. And what we would do is we would do the physical technique or the vocal technique, and we would transition to text. I would always make sure we would operate text, because you can train these techniques like they do in Yale and Juilliard, but they don't apply a specific text to it, or maybe they might apply Shakespeare or something on. But I always went back to the text of the film that I was working on, or I would do it with an audition. I've done that sometimes with a callback or a screen test. And it's a great way to really explore the given circumstances. It's a great way when people talk about get it into your body. Like, what does that mean? But these physical techniques really allow that. And then also, I haven't played much with accents professional, or like where I've been hired. Accents in auditions, and a little bit in Dear White People. I use an accent a little bit in the episode 7, season 3, and Knight Thompson's work. Knight Thompson, Dudley Knight, they do accents and stuff. Eric Singer on YouTube, look him up. They are amazing with accents. And so really just kind of investigate, like, what are the pros really doing? Because it's not just scene study. And I figured that out for a while. And obviously scene study, go to scene study, be like acting, traditional acting, but sprinkle some other stuff in there.
Well said. And you covered a lot, which is so important. Is what I love to hear, is that it's more than just reading lines off of a screen and dissecting a scene, so to say. And listen, I hold myself accountable to this, and I'm just learning from you, and I'm sure viewers are going to learn so much, is that it's our bodies as an instrument, as actors, we got to know how to use them, let alone how can we fine tune it, how can we incorporate it to, not necessarily for every single audition, but for how we embody a character. And that's where, you know, how you said you wanted to be that character type of actor for the recent project you're working on, and how your coach was kind of telling you, like, what's the honest thing that your character would do. And honestly, I can't wait to watch it. I'm going to make sure I watch it, because I love horror films. It's just it's a thing with me. It's my thing. But to be able to receive so much like good comments from other people watching it, it's like the best type of adrenaline for us as actors, that nonetheless we're believable, but people can take it and accept it and say, okay, this is good. Like, your character, oh, she did a great job, and I can't wait to see it, because I know it's going to be great. It's going to be out there for a reason. It's going to do great. I know that.
Thank you.
Of course. But kind of transitioning, and you talked a little bit about this, about your experience with talking with not only just your coaches, but with Viola Davis herself, about whether to go to Juilliard or not, and her amazing advice to just be like, yo, you're already here. Like, what? Like, you're good. Like, keep doing what you're doing. That's just great advice. I wanted to say, like, that's just amazing to hear. But from your career, and I know I'm always coming back to career, or your journey, I like to say, were there any major lessons you learned, whether that be on set, whether that be from someone who told you something that just inspired you to keep going in your journey still to this day? Maybe someone told you that you did like a really great job with this, or maybe it was a moment where, you know, you just didn't know and you learned your lesson from that, and that little moment of, I wouldn't necessarily say failure, but that moment of correction, you know, you took that with you with your journey.
Wow. I mean, I've learned a lot on set. I think more of it has been in the nuances, you know.
Interesting. Okay.
Meaning, that's the thing. When you're acting in front of a camera a lot, and when you're on set a lot, there's something that you get from that environment that isn't present in an acting class. There's an ease on set that I've found, and I've always pondered on, right? You know, there is an experience. With experience, you know, hopefully we get better with things the more we do them. And I do feel like I do feel like I've been able to get better. And something that popped into my head was the nerves are still there. You know, when I did this movie, I was, oh my gosh, I became so nervous. I was so nerve wracked. I was less nervous to do How to Get Away with Murder. And you know what I mean? And I was coming into that show with a smaller role, and it was, you know, my second show, and I'm coming into this movie with all these credits, and I'm like, why am I so nervous? You know, maybe because the role was bigger, right? Maybe, you know, bigger stakes.
Right.
So it was, you know, and then also, you know, I'm just looking at the whole journey. Two things. One, I'm in a better place in my life. You know, I'm not homeless. You know, I've done well for myself. I can take care of myself and live comfortably, more comfortably than I did before.
No, I understand.
And I'm still out here hustling. You know, I really thought that. And let me back up. Let me back up. Okay. No, I don't. Okay. Let me back up. I'm thinking about before. No, I have to correct myself because I'm tripping. I've done well. I'm still out here auditioning.
Right. I get it.
It was a while after Murder. I can't say this now in good faith. After Murder, I was still not doing well financially. I was doing fine, but I was still very much so like cleaning houses and being a maid. I can't say that now. That just would not, that's not true. You know what I mean? Not that I don't worry about money at all, but you know, I can't say that anymore.
No, I got you.
Maybe next year, let's see what next year holds, you know. But I had a really nice year. And like I said, I have to correct myself because I'm just so used to like struggling and being poor and like all of this stuff. And I have no desire to be one of those people who don't recognize their own privilege. But yeah, you know, I'm still very much so like, I'm not being offered stuff, you know, high paying stuff. I'm not being offered high paying stuff or stuff that's on TV or on a streaming service. You know, someone reached out to me to do a film that I was recommended to them, and they're like, and they wanted to have a conversation with me and see if I wanted to do it and play the smaller role to play the best friend. And I was like, oh yeah, that sounds really interesting. You know, yeah, I'd love to do it. And they're like, okay, well, yeah, if you just don't mind putting yourself on tape, like, I'm like putting myself on. I'm like, oh, okay. I thought you were gonna offer it to me. I was like, but you know, I'm like, oh, it's a best friend role. It's a smaller role. I'm sure the project seems amazing. And I'm like, I'm really feeling like they're about to offer it to me. No, we still want to see you, you know, act. And I'm like, okay, send over the script. Let me read the script. Let me read the sides. And I've been doing, I do a lot of self-help. I've always done self-help books. I started with Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. Now I am reading, and I've already read it, but you got to do it again. The Honest Way by Julia Cameron. Kerry Washington recently went viral for talking about that in an interview on Twitter. Went viral a few months ago, late last year. And these are great books about affirmation and prayer and manifestation. And so those are things that I use to get that energy to will myself to be able to, you know, continue the fight, because I'm still very much in the fight.
For sure.
And I look forward to a moment. Well, no, there's always, there's always going to be a fight. I'm always going to be
Yeah, there's
fighting.
always going to be something.
There's always going to be work. You're always going to have to will yourself, but that's life. And that's a part of life. Like putting in work and getting something out of it and experience something, maybe an achievement, maybe an experience, but getting something out of it. Like and I know in my mind, I want to be great. I don't want to say this to be mean about other people.
No, not at all.
I feel like other people who maybe have just walked into certain things or just walked into achievement, I don't know if they have the experience to be great. And my desire, even though we put that to the side when we are acting, my desire, Quei's desire, has always been to be great. And I think that's what my journey has been leading me to.
Yeah. And that's how legends are made, just to be honest. That and talking about not necessarily comparing, but seeing how two different journeys can be, how one is a dreamer who's been training all their life necessarily and putting in the work, while another individual kind of gets it then and there, but it all comes down to who's willing to do the work and who has the resume to prove it, so to say. And how can that, I got you. And it's such it's a humbling moment. And I love your vulnerability and how humble you are throughout this whole entire interview. I know I'm interviewing you and I talk about your credits, and it seems like you're soaking it all in and taking so much pride in how much you have done that it still blows you away, still to this day, that you've done projects with, example, Viola Davis worked with, individuals like Tyler Perry on his show, and the list continues to go on. And it's just a testament, just from looking and talking to you, it's a testament to how much you love this, let alone what you're willing to do to still continue to do so. So I could talk on and on about how grateful I am and how just amazing you are as an individual. This is what I love to do. I love talking with people. I love talking with artists, people who are passionate. You definitely are. And this whole interview has just been nothing short of amazing. And I can't wait to see all that you do. Just from looking right here, I can't wait to see what you do 5 to 10 years down the line.
Oh my gosh, Amashe, thank you. I can't wait to see what you do. I mean, you're so smart and brilliant for, doing this and by bringing artists together, like, so you can learn from each other. Like, I think that's so great. And you've just been so kind. And I just know, really, like, I think, and we're twinning. And so,
I know.
Yeah, so great. And if I can just finish by just saying, you brought up Mr. Perry. The reason I love him is because he employs 99.99% of Black actors.
Yeah.
Some of their first jobs. And series regular type of thing, there's just so many avenues you can go, right?
Right.
You can go to Juilliard if you're starting out. You can go to Juilliard, or you can go to a smaller market like Atlanta.
Right.
Or if you have the opportunity to audition for Mr. Perry, freaking do it. Yeah. I mean, he really there's not that many people who takes chances on new Black talent.
For sure. Right.
I've seen him do. And it's so great. You see, they do it with the white folks on the white soap operas, and Mr. Perry does it with his soap operas.
For sure.
No, and so but I don't know. I just wanted to mention that, because he's dope for employing Black artists. I appreciate him for that. Truly.
Yeah, for sure. He changed a lot of people's lives, and for him to still have that calling to do so, what he's doing now on a bigger scale, that what he has right now, it's just, that's how legends are. They continue growing and they're creating a bigger name for themselves with the heart of service for people like us. So it's just it's so wonderful to just be in fellowship with creatives. I love talking with you. I just met you, and I have so much gratitude for you. And yeah, I honestly have one last question for you. I ask all my guests this question. It's kind of, again, ties into why I do this. I want this to be an inspiration for not just actors and fellow creatives, but I'm pretty sure that people go through trials and tribulations, and we all have to push through and aspire to inspire to be better people in what we do, how we interact with others. And I ask you, Quei, how do you desire to use your very own platform to inspire others, people you come in contact with, while you're on set? How do you desire to be an inspiration for anyone who comes across you?
Well, in two ways. The first way that I want to use my platform is by doing really great art that touches people in a very specific way, but many people can relate to. I think someone said this recently. They in a filmmaker or producer, there was this idea that you need to be very general. You need to reflect the broader culture for everyone to connect with a story. So if you want everyone to watch your story, your lead has to be a white man in his mid-30s. But people have actually realized that the more specific you are, the more specific of a story you tell, the more everyone else can relate in a way. And I just want to do really, really moving work that gets people out of their intellectual minds and gets people into their hearts. Because everything we do is based on emotion. There isn't a business transaction or an argument or a fight that's had that is divorced from emotion. And then I want to represent, Black women, Black trans women. I want to represent poor folk, even though I'm no longer poor, but I know what it's like to be so poor, like to be very poor. I know what it's like to struggle and to be in the shelter system. I want to share my story, and I want to advocate for the people who are still struggling. Homelessness is a big deal for me. Gun control is a very big deal for me. Policing, my goodness, just an entire slate of progressive agendas. I have to figure out, how do I do that? How do I do that effectively? And I'm just going to have to keep trying stuff, I have to keep trying, because as I'm trying to figure out how I want to use my platform, I'm still trying to build it. So yeah, and I want to inspire other creatives and other artists, because I know how much we want it. I know how much I want it. So yeah, just being authentic. That's how I'm gonna do it.
And the best way to do so is authentically. And yeah, I'm blown away by this interview. I expected nothing but the best from you, and I'm just glad that you joined me here. You shared so much with me, people who will be watching this. I can't wait to put this out there in the world. But thank you so much, Quei. I really appreciate you and your time. That's kind of all I had for you at the moment. But as I stated before, yeah, the world is yours. I can't wait to see you in, this horror film that's going to be coming out in August that you referred to earlier. I'm excited to see your work to come. And yeah, I'm so grateful. I'm at a loss for words at this point.
Oh, thank you so much.
Of
The world
course.
too, and I really hope we can continue to work together in some way. If you need anything, reach out to me.
100%. And yes.
I mean it. And I've watched many interviews like this. They've inspired me. So I'm just really happy you're doing the work.
Oh, thank you so much. And for the sake of our viewers watching, thank you so much for tuning in to episode 48. We're so close to 50. I can almost touch it. It's such a crazy journey, but honestly, I couldn't have asked for a better guest. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate you. Stick around for a little bit, but for viewers watching, stay tuned for our next episode coming very, very soon. Until then, farewell.